All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the special meeting of Kimberley City Council for Monday, January the 19th, held here on the homelands of the Ktunaxa peoples. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to look at the preliminary operating budget changes. And there are a number of motions that are going to come with this. And as we have done in the past, we'll deal with those as we're going through the Chief Financial Officer's presentation. So with the call to order, do we have any late items?
There's no late items, Mr. Mayor.
Could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Councillor McBain, thank you. And Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. All right, short and sweet. So let's move right into the report. Krista, welcome. I think we're about in the middle of the meetings right now. We've had a few more to come.
Yes,
And tonight is purely about the operating budget, correct?
that is correct.
Cool. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mayor McCormick. Yes, this evening we'll be continuing the financial plan deliberations for the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. And as mentioned by the mayor, we're looking at preliminary operating budget changes for 2026. Do we have the presentation now? Excellent, thank you.
Wow, that's impressive.
It works. Excellent, thank you.
Ooh.
So here's a brief look at our agenda tonight. We'll be looking at council direction received to date, a carryover from our revenue policy overview presentation on November 17th in regard to the light industrial tax. Then we'll look at the financial plan foundation, and then the proposed adjustments for 2026, and then look at the steps going forward afterwards. So first, we'll look at the council direction received to date. At a special budget meeting that was held on November 17th, 2025, we reviewed the financial policy overview. And during that meeting, council directed that both water and sewer rates, the flat rates, be increased by 5%, effective January 1st, 2026. And that is to support inflationary increases to operating costs, as well as incremental increases to further contributions to reserves. And additionally, council directed that the bulk water rates be increased by 15% for 2026, as well as 2027. And by doing these two increases over the next 2 years, it'll bring the revenue in line with what it costs to provide those services. Additionally, during that same meeting, the garbage, recycling, and organic collection fees were reviewed. And since the revenue is expected to cover the operating costs for those services, it was proposed that the fees for those services remain unchanged for 2026. Discussions surrounding the flat tax levies also occurred at that same meeting. And as you can see on the screen there, the residential improved residential property flat tax, council passed a resolution to decrease that from $306 down to $226, and then increase the unimproved properties from $386 to $500. And just a reminder that the flat tax levies are applicable to residential properties only. And if we look at what this means as far as the change in dollar values using the 2025 quantities, the net reduction collected through flat tax would be approximately $300,000. So now that will switch over to being collected through property value tax. Okay, I think this remote
Too
stopped
good to be
working.
true.
There we go. So on December 1st, 2025, we held another special budget meeting, and this was to present the 2026 to 2030 capital and non-capital project plan. And these resolutions were necessary to incorporate those capital and non-capital projects into the financial plan bylaw. And if you're interested in the details of those projects, they are included in the agenda of the December 1st special budget meeting. So those were the resolutions that were passed at those meetings, but one outstanding item was the light industrial tax, which council requested additional analysis to be brought back so that a decision could be made. So I provided a bit of a table here showing how different scenarios of increases to the light industrial tax rate would impact the total tax collection. And this is using just the 2025 light industrial tax collected and then the various percentage increases. So we can see with a 2.5% increase, it would bring in an additional $467. Whereas a 25% increase would bring in a total of $4,669. And it should be noted that these increases are before any 2026 property tax increase that council may approve before the financial plan bylaw.
Krista, Councilor McBain, go ahead.
Yeah, weirdly, this question is actually going to be for Troy. So when we went through the most recent zoning proposal there down in Marysville, the report that we were provided with the recommendation in there basically suggested that we, the city, should do everything we possibly can to try to promote more, light industrial down to that area. I mean, that was the consensus. In your opinion, from a planning standpoint, I mean, I know some of these are very small, going up to higher value. Do you see? Well, I mean, is there any value that would be not a deterrent, like going the other way, is with respect to trying to attract that light industrial there? I mean, I know some of these increases, 2.5% is not very big, but I worry about if we're trying to make an impact to our overall tax revenue, even a 25% increase doesn't make that much of a nominal or not much of an impact, but could impact the existing light industrial that we have there. So long-winded way of asking, Troy, by increasing any of this light industrial tax, does it help attract more light industrial to our town?
Go ahead, Troy.
I think the question is, if council decides to increase the industrial tax mill rate, is that a hindrance to industrial investment? Is that the question? I mean, I guess potentially, I would say that, the tax rates, the mill rates don't usually come up in our conversations with development components. They do sometimes, but it's not the major contributing factor. But and I think part of the answer to that as well is like they're going to compare to how we compare to other communities. That part of it, if that's a really important question to them. Like there's some slides at the revenue policy meeting about how we fit in with a group on that. But yeah, like to answer, I mean, if we substantially increase it till it's so we're the highest or one of the highest or something, then that's probably a different message, I guess. But if it's more in line with commercial rates or whatever, and then the other side of it, as I think was talked about a little bit last time, is we might consider something to be an industrial use or an industrial development. But if BC assessment, if it doesn't fit their classification, then it may be a commercial class tax rate anyway. And that's always, I think, even looking at the list of properties here and some of the other properties in town, that it's always a little confusing to us, I think, about how they determine which ones are industrial and which ones are commercial. So it's not always a factor of how we've zoned it or what we consider it, what the project themselves call themselves, industrial or commercial. So it's a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah, and just to finish that thought, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the only reason I asked is because this is one of the few mechanisms that we as council have to try to, say, either attract or deter. And you know, when the recommendation was we should do all we can, I just wanted to clarify that by making an increase, we're not providing a hindrance that's too much to bear. That was it. Thanks.
Further, council? Go ahead, Krista.
Okay, just for a little bit more analysis on the next slide, I've shown what those increases, how they would impact individual properties within the light industrial tax base, as well as with any increase to the light industrial tax rate, the residential rate would be offset, would be reduced to make up for that increase. So at the bottom of this table, I've shown what the impact to the average single family residence would be with each scenario. And further to Troy's comment, yes, these properties would be the ones that BC Assessment has determined based on their use that they are light industrial. So they include the micro cannabis facility as well as microbreweries around town as well. Not necessarily just that light industrial area in Marysville.
Yeah, so just a quick comment, Krista.
Mhm.
So what we have, the dozen properties that we have in place that are part of the industrial class, they're all very low value, relatively speaking. So the impact is not going to be that great on even the property valued at $1.2 million. It's further to Councillor McBain's point. It's if there were a 10 or a 15 or a $20 million project that were coming to town, it would be material. And we're dealing with some pretty small numbers here. Yeah, sorry, Councillor McGuire, I'll wake up.
Yeah, while we have this up, I'd also like to point out, we don't have it in this presentation, but we were previously presented with the fact that the industrial rate is currently 11% below our residential rate. So, and maybe a third of what we charge businesses. So when we're looking at these 25% increases, we're just getting it above a residential rate at this point. And I think that, you know, even at a 10% increase, that would still be below residential rate. So as we're looking ahead to the motions on the floor, I'd suggest somewhere more in the 15 to 25% range.
Further? Councillor Cairns, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, my thought is, you know, when the November 17th meeting, I think it was, we looked at where we stood relative to our region, and we don't want to get into a situation that we're so far behind that we have to increase dramatically. So I would be in support of a gradual increase over time, small amounts each year rather than a shock. Yeah.
Go ahead, Krista.
Yes, so just further to how we compare to other communities, out of 153 municipalities, there were only 21 that had a lower tax rate than Kimberley, just for comparative purposes. So we are just seeking direction on the next slide here, that if council wishes to change, let's see this one. Does wish to change the class multiplier, that first resolution would apply. If no change is desired by council, then that second resolution below would suffice.
Councillor McBain, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I just, you know, if we are going to, you know, make a move, I kind of prefer the the idea that Councillor Cairns has with, maybe taking like a 10%, we could say, you could almost kind of set it over the next 3-4 years and say it's just going to be that 10% increment. And then to Councillor McGuire's point, I mean, then we are getting, at least we're closing that gap. I think that everybody wants to close that gap. But we're doing it in a way that, even though maybe the amounts aren't huge with respect to making an impact on the residential taxes, it gives these, dozen or so businesses, kind of fair warning that step up is going to come. I've always found that approach has kind of worked well for us. We've done it in some of the other tax plots that we have here too. So that would be my suggestion.
I think the other consideration when we compare ourselves to other communities, we have to take a look at services that are, actually there or not there. In our particular case, I think we have a desire, if not specific plan, to move forward with servicing. But until we have those services in place, doing anything that remotely approaches, the others, I think would be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Councillor Dunneback and Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, I just kind of want to concur with both of your guys' last statements there. For the simple fact that if we're going to compare apples to apples in other municipalities, we got to be able to provide water and sewer and access. Snow removal, all of it in a nice clean environment that attracts customers to these light industrial places, because the cost to run something light industrial is wildly growing out of control. So I understand we need to raise taxes, but it should be done moderately, so that these places some that don't have what they need to function and have to actually pay for their own water well and septic, is a massive, massive cost that you don't ever get that money back in business. That's an investment from you to give back to your community, to employ people. And that's what these 12 people are doing. So just want that to be taken into consideration before we go chopping up the noses by the face.
Thank you, Councillor. If I remember correctly, the cost of putting in the septic for both the Rocky Mountain Cannabis and also Stoke was considerably north of $500,000.
I just actually recently dropped somebody off at Stoke. And it's beautiful to see those new facilities there, professional, nice and clean. But I have to say the most disappointing thing was dropping them off at the entrance and seeing the septic system. This day and age, the biggest industry that we have of growth in the last 5 years. And you're welcome, but you're gonna have to take care of that yourself. Is disrespectful to the people that are investing in the community.
Councillor McGuire, go ahead.
Yeah, I hear those arguments, and there's also an argument to be made that if we don't charge the proper tax rates, we can't afford the infrastructure. And also a reminder that quite a few of these folios are actually outside of that industrial park. So it's a broader tax base. Just two counterpoints. I'm totally on par with you guys. Just a reminder that it would be more like a 300% tax increase to get them on par with other businesses in town. And we're looking at under 25% increases across the board here. So even our highest rate that we're considering on this chart is well below. I would say it's pretty moderate. You're looking at probably 10 years to get it. Well, maybe not quite that, depending on which number we choose, but we're looking at a decade to get them back in line if we're considering some of these smaller increases.
Further, Council? Go ahead, Councillor Fox.
Confirm something. So if we go, so they're based on Councillor McGuire's statements, the current industrial rate is 11% below the residential rate.
It's near the residential rate.
So if we went like 15, it would be slightly over.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure I understand.
All right, we have a motion to be put forward on the floor. Councillor McBain.
I'll move that We go 10%.
Is that the only piece of information you need for that? Just to make sure we're good.
It has
10%
10%.
is the proposed, yeah.
No.
No, do we have a seconder for that? Counselor Dunneback, thank you. All right, further discussion, council? All right, all those in favor? Oh, is that an in favor or another comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, just another comment. Like, I think that the information presented as a multiplier might have been more useful for council tonight. And, you know, kind of forecasting into the future, if we do 10% increases, my calculation in my head is that this is going to be 20 years to get them in line with other businesses in town. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, so fair enough, councilor.
And we're, you know, the thing about utilities are charged out of a totally different, separate pot of money too. So that's another comment.
I can't remember last time I saw the chart, but the light industrial rates across the board do not approach the class 6 business rates. Pick a community.
I'm saying, you know, I think with a broader context, we could have had a more robust conversation around this. So that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just in future, I wouldn't mind seeing multipliers and how this compares to other communities and such to make and also like projecting into the future. If we do 10%, when do we become in line? That gives context for, you know, McBain's suggestion of how, you know, doing a slighter increase over a number of years to get them in alignment and in alignment with other communities or something that's more reasonable. And again, you know, I'm not opposed to the 10% increase. I'm just speaking to providing context for council so that we can make good decisions.
Last call. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councilor Roberts is opposed. Motion's carried.
Okay, thank you.
That's one.
That's one. Okay, now on to the financial plan foundation. So until the 2026 to 2035 year financial plan is approved, we operate under year 2 of the 2025 to 2029 financial plan, which is not adopted until May of this year, the new 5-year financial plan. So as stated on the slide, the base budget for 2026, which is included in the 2025 to 2029 financial plan, has a base budget increase of 1.46%. And then all of the items that we'll be reviewing tonight proposed to be on top of that 1.46. And also noted here is that the 2026 base budget also includes a $100,000 increase pertaining to non-market assessment change. So that's already built into the operating budget, anticipating that will be received as a result of non-market assessment change in each year.
Now, just to be clear, that offsets increases.
That is correct. So as we move on, the base budget modifications are usually fall within one of these categories. And as I mentioned, we'll be going through the ones proposed for 2026 as we go through the presentation. And the additional expenditures or reductions will impact the amount of the tax increase for the current year. So here's a bit of a summary of the proposed additions and or reductions and how they fit into the financial plan bylaw presentation. So this is just a summary of the table and how they fit in. This is the revenue side. So the adjustments that we'll be presenting tonight are summarized in this table here on the revenue side. So we can see that 402,000 is proposed in additional revenues, which will fund the change of expenditures of $402,472 for total expenditures of $67 million. And there's a question.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So is there a way where, and this is actually touching on something that Councillor McGuire and actually Councillor Cairns touched on, but is there a way where we could get this broken down, I guess, in a little bit more, so it's a little bit clear what goes where, because general government services is kind of broad. And it's the thing, and also the thing too, where it's like, it's nice to kind of, so like in a couple weeks, we'll get the report, the quarterly report, and it'll have all the stuff, and some of it might be called something different. And then my brain's gonna have to, and my brain's not gonna be able to do that. It's not gonna remember what filters where. So is there a way we can kind of put it all together or break it down in such a way where it's just a little bit more straightforward?
Right, so the way that we have it presented here is in the categories that are typically set out by, or that are set out by the province. So it fits into the categories that they have set out for reporting purposes. So general government is their defined category. So
Can I just, can I further?
Yeah,
I
I
still
just-
don't know what it
Yes.
is. That's all I'm saying. I still don't know what, like, I don't know where it comes from, but I don't know for us, like, what that reality is. If that's like Nick and then Troy is protective. That's not how it works. I realize that, but I'm just grabbing sort of random things. So that's kind of what I'm trying to piece together.
Mhm.
And so sometimes when the puzzle pieces are sort of spread out, it's hard to put them together, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Right. For a high level overview, the general government includes the corporate admin department, finance, IT, as well as planning for the purposes of the this presentation, or for our finance records. And your protective services are looking at RCMP and fire and building inspection, and the rest are fairly straightforward. But the general government does capture more of the administrative side.
Yeah, so let's come back to that question when we hit the expense side, because I think that's categorized a little bit differently than.
Right, and it'll make sense as we go through the modifications for each one specifically.
So a question then on the back on the revenue side. So the property tax revenue, the extra 299,598, that's the 1 point, what was the factor above 1.4? I think you said
So
1.46%.
the amount that's represented in the middle column, the 2026 proposed changes, represents the proposed increase in the presentation coming later, plus the non-market change.
Right. But in
The
the
1.46, sorry to interrupt, the 1.46% is captured under the base budget column.
under the base budget column.
So that's already built into the
Okay.
financial.
So what's the 299 then?
The 299 is the proposed increase following the modifications as presented later in the presentation.
Okay, we haven't seen that yet.
Right, we'll be
Okay,
coming to
cool.
that. It's just a introductory summary, I guess.
Okay, got it. Sorry to jump ahead.
And sorry, the other side of that is the non-market change, non-market assessment change. The tax revenue from that is also included in there. So let's dive deep into each of the adjustments for 2026 that are being proposed. So here's a summary breaking down each of the proposed base budget modifications. At the top there, we've got the proposed additions, in the middle, the proposed reductions, and then also proposing an alternative funding source. And I'll get into more detail as we go through each item. But the net impact of all those adjustments being proposed is $108,426. So that's part of that 299 on the previous slide that we were looking at on the expenditure side. Okay, so if we look at these in detail, we'll start with the accounting software subscription. So the 2026-2030 non-capital plan includes a project to replace the city's accounting software. And as part of the preliminary research for this software, it is appearing that the annual subscription cost will be approximately $100,000. We do already have a subscription budget for our current software, the existing software, but because the transition will take anywhere from 12 to 24 months, we'll need to run both software at the same time. So this additional will need the budget for the additional software to be added for 2026 to proceed. And then once the transition is complete, we will no longer need the existing software, so that budget item line would be removed once it's complete, which is expected in 2028. So the new software we're looking at is hoping to provide advanced technology, reduce manual entry, provide more flexible reporting, and also provide reliable software support. And it is anticipated once it's fully implemented that we'll see significant efficiencies once implemented.
So is this replacing Vadim then?
That would be the intention, to replace
Okay.
Vadim, yes. That is our
Awesome.
current software.
Go ahead, Councillor Fox.
How many users get to log in for $100,000?
Well, essentially, it would be all the finance staff and all the managers, anybody who has a.
Is it capped though? Like, is there like a thing where if you want 10 users, you pay 100,000, and if you want 25 users, you pay 500,000 or something ridiculous like that? Like, is it one of those kinds of systems?
The fee structure does rely on number of users,
Okay,
yes, so,
can we just make sure we maximize that as much?
yes,
Okay.
of
Thank you.
course. Any other questions about that piece? Okay. The next item is showing a budget addition of 50,783, and this pertains to the RCMP contract. City practice has been to approve 8 full-time equivalent RCMP members, but subsequently budget for 7. And at the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting, council was advised that the cost estimate for 7 FTEs for 2026 would total $1,384,507. And the base budget that was included in the currently in the 5-year financial plan is $1.3 million. So an additional $50,783 is required. And this is the result of primarily member pay increases as well as modernization of equipment. So in 2025, we are anticipating savings. As we budget for 7, it is estimated that by the end of 2025, we're looking at only 4.94 being billed. So at the time of this presentation, I didn't have the numbers, but it is looking like there will be savings of approximately $300,000 for 2025. So it's being proposed that the savings for 2025 be transferred to the reserve, and some of those savings be used to fund this $50,000 increase in 2026, which would result in no tax impact for 2026.
Councillor Fox.
Question. So if it goes into the reserve, does it go into a reserve where it's just for RCMP stuff? Okay,
Yes.
just making sure. Okay.
Yeah, we have a dedicated RCMP contract reserve.
Yeah, even though we managed down to 7, it's even rare that we end up with an actual FTE of 7 in the course of a year. Members are away, they're sick, they're on leave, and they can't be backfilled until a ridiculously long period of time. So we end up with less than that number of FTEs, and that's all we're charged for. We don't get charged for 7, even though that's what we're budgeting for. We only get charged for what's actually used. Go ahead, Councillor Dunneback.
I just have a question with the RCMP reserves. Have we ever thought about taking those reserves and maybe investing back into the building that we have, so we don't have to rely on Cranbrook, and also keep adjusting our budget as they ask more, and every time we send somebody to Cranbrook, we're also losing somebody who's supposed to be protecting our community. I just wonder if the long-term investment of investing into our building and in ourselves provides more over the long run, and rebuilding and maybe reusing a bit of what we have so that they have a better facility and we have more protection over time. Just a sort of a thought.
Thanks, Councillor. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so the the purpose of the reserve when it was initially created was really to deal with any contract adjustments. Like we knew for a long time that there was going to be that they were going to unionize. There was going to be their first collective agreement. We didn't know what that number was going to look like. So I think it was over a period of 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. The reserve was built, and then when they finally ratified that first collective agreement, I think it was $270,000 or something that we had to pay out in back pay to them. So Krista's strategy of utilizing some of the savings to pay for these increases. Since that first collective agreement, we've been chasing the RCMP contract costs. Like we don't know where they're going to end up from year to year. But I mean, if we get to the point where there's I guess enough in that contract reserve to start doing some modifications to the building, we could do that. The kicker on the whole jail cell thing is that even once if we were to modify that building to build cells that were compliant with the RCMP's needs, I believe it was we had to have two additional RCMP members, 2 guards on staff, that's ongoing annual expenditures that, you know, the deal that we have for Cranbrook right now has been going up, you know, from year to year, but it's still in the long run, it's a bargain.
Yep. Back in 2012, when that first contract went into play, the cost estimates to modify that building to get the cells in, this was in 2012, was just under $500,000 just to modify the building. And then we had the incremental manpower that was coming in. So that contract that we cut with Cranbrook, as Jim said, has ended up being actually a pretty good bargain. The break even on that doing something else is so far out. Now, that doesn't mean that at some point when that building is replaced, you know, this comes under the category also of facilities assessment. I mean, that's an old cinder block building from, you know, 1960 something. And, you know, at such point as that building gets replaced, then reviewing all of that again, you know, definitely makes sense. Further, go ahead.
I agree with the comments that you made there, and I just kind of wonder, you know, we've been talking about a new fire hall, if we've ever thought of like combining these two and compounding the cost and having everybody in one building. I don't know, just spitballing ideas. Maybe over the long run, we save more money and more continuity with the RCMP and fire department and all that stuff.
Yeah, and search and rescue would piggyback on that as well. Thank you for the comments. Go ahead.
Here's how often do we renew, or do we look at that contract with yours every
I
5
think
years?
it's 5 years.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, every 5 years. It's referred to later on in here. I think it was in October where council approved the last 5-year agreement.
Okay.
I think it's been 5-year chunks since the beginning.
With Cranbrook.
Oh, that's not within our control. We don't bargain with the union for the RCMP.
No, I
It's a federal government.
in terms of, I guess, what they're gonna. In terms of what they're gonna, I guess, give us for service, or like, we're like, we need 7 guys, and they're like, we can give you 5. Like, how often does that conversation happen?
Essentially every year.
Okay,
Like-
okay.
Yeah, there's a letter, a staff report that comes to council to just get confirmation from council that that they want to continue on with that request. 8 members managed to 7. And if for whatever reason, when that's brought forward, council thinks that it should increase or decrease, we can make that request.
Okay, just wondering.
And it's usually in conjunction with the priorities for the community.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Last comment.
I guess also a concern that I have with the RCMP and us only having 7 FTEs. Do we take into consideration the percentage of growth in like our 10-year plan of, like, I see us needing 14 FTEs in 10 years if the numbers that are being given to us versus what we have now. Is that part of the bargaining or like our future planning for what we have or where we're going? Sorry, I know it's sort of a really slippery slope, but
Yeah,
just a
no.
curious question more than anything.
Yeah, and it's something that's, it's considered on an annual basis, so we wouldn't say, you know, in 5 or 6 or 10 years, we anticipate the population being this much, and therefore we need more resources, and therefore in 10 years, we think we need this many. They ask like on an annual basis for us to confirm what we think we need, so we'll revisit it kind of as we're growing.
Go ahead. Make it quick, please.
So there's also some provisions that be above a certain amount of population, the contract completely changes. So we're under that. We're currently, the municipality is paying 70%, where when our population grows, it's a different percentage, and it's no more for us. But we're not there yet.
Long ways out.
But still, that's the way they actually adjust for growth in population and the type of services that RCMP offers.
Thank you for that.
And
Go ahead, Krista.
Okay. We'll move on to the
That's-
next.
That's number 2.
Yes. The next item is in regards to the general election. The last one was held in 2022, so we are due for every 4 years. So the next general election will be held in October of 2026. The last election cost approximately 68,000, and some of those costs were related to mitigating the risk of COVID-19 transmission, as that was about the time that we were still concerned about the transmission. So it is anticipated for the this year's general election that the cost will be approximately $50,000, and the current financial plan has designated 25,000 currently. So an additional 25,000 would be required. So the 2026 budget modification is reflecting the additional $25,000. However, staff are proposing beyond 2026 that we establish an election reserve. So this would help to avoid the big swings in budget every 4 years. So by establishing this reserve and contributing an even 15,000 starting in 2027, by the next election, we would have approximately the amount that would be needed.
Councilor McBain.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I don't think any of us foresee the time where there's not going to be an election cycle. So it seems to just make sense to me. Then you're consistent every year, and you've got a pot ready to go by the time the election year rolls around. So great idea.
Councilor Fox.
I also think that's a great idea. I'm just curious, so the cost of an election would be like the staff and the people who count stuff and advertising and, okay,
And voting machines.
right, okay, just.
Yes. Mhm. Okay.
Go ahead.
And as referenced previously during the RCMP contract discussion, an additional $19,600 is required for the jail cells facilities agreement. And as mentioned previously, the previous 5-year agreement with the city of Cranbrook expired on December 31st, 2025. And at the October 14th, 2025 meeting, council authorized the execution of a new agreement for January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2030. And the first year allocation would be 75,000, which is a 35% increase over what's already included in the 5-year financial plan. And I've listed there some of the reasons for the big jump, which primarily includes of staff salaries, training, which was not previously captured in the agreement, supplies and equipment, administration, as well as them having to meet new regulatory requirements to holding prisoners. So yes, the current budget allocation which was based on the previous agreement in the 5-year financial plan was 55,400. So to bring us to the 75,000 would take the additional 19,600.
So the key point up there too is that in each of the next 4 years, it's a 5%
That is correct. Yeah, each subsequent year after
as part of the, in the
2026.
contract.
Right. Any questions on that piece? Okay. Okay, community grants. So here we have a net budget addition of $19,032. And the first piece of this increase is the adjustment to the total funds made available for project event grants. Back on August 11th, 2025, council approved an increase to the maximum funding available under this program. So it went from $30,000 up to $60,000. And at that time, it was proposed that that would require a property tax increase of 0.21%. However, last year also, we saw that the Kimberley Chamber of Commerce announced it would no longer support the July Fest event. And the city had previously supported the chamber through an in-kind budget of time and materials to support the event, to support the July Fest event. And that total budget was $10,806. Subsequently, the Events for Myrtle Mountain Society took on the project to put the event on. And in October, council approved a redirection of funds that had normally gone to the chamber and applied these to the $9,043 towards the Events for Myrtle Mountain. That was at the same time, council directed that any future funding for the event would be considered under the application-based project event grant program. So it's that program that was discussed at the top of the slide here. So that means in 2026, the in-kind allocation that had previously been included in the budget is no longer required. So that the 2026 amount was $10,968. So that would reduce the net impact of of increasing the project event grant program by the 30,000. So the net adjustment would be 0.13% rather than the 0.21%. Okay. And the next item pertains to transit. The net transit adjustment is proposed to be $6,378. This is based on a 3-year draft budget provided by BC Transit. And it reflects general industry trends, location-based operations and maintenance activities, and any specific initiatives. What's offsetting the additional expenditure in 2026 are increased contributions from the Kootenay East Regional Hospital District in the amount of approximately $30,000. As well as RMI funding under the 2025 to 2027 resort development strategy, which of $27,000, which will be put towards the winter shuttle. BC Transit also typically holds funds in reserve for the city to use at their discretion. However, staff chose to use that in 2025 to offset the increase in that year. So to summarize a bit of that detail, the next slide has a table showing what the anticipated budget in that first column, which was $165,000. This was what was included in the 5-year financial plan, or no, this is what the budget is anticipated for the transit in 2026. And the next column represents what was included in the 5-year financial plan. So we can see that the difference in total revenue is increased by $25,000. The expense is also increased by $33,000, offset by the $27,000 RMI contribution, leaving only $6,378 needing to be funded through a property tax increase.
Councillor Fox.
Just curious, and this might be a question for Troy. What is transit revenue that is not ticket sales?
Yeah, so the bulk of it is ticket sales. We get a portion, there's some other like minor sort of fare revenue related things that come through the provincial programs, like we get sort of an offset from the BC Bus Pass program and the program that provides free transit for youth. There's a sort of a revenue subsidy.
So those technically that's what the revenue line is? And then the
Yeah,
tickets
and
are
then-
just
and
people
then
that,
A big part of that is the revenue that we get from Interior Health for related to the Health Connections
okay,
service. Yeah.
okay. It just wasn't clear. I wasn't sure. I was like, it all come from ticket sales? So I was just wanting clarification. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next item pertains to local organization property insurance, and it is proposed that with this change, there could be a budget reduction of $4,725. Local organizations use city-owned facilities, which are insured under the city's property insurance policy with the Municipal Insurance Association of BC. And each year, these organizations are billed to recover the cost of that insurance. In the past, the amount billed was, because we didn't have the exact amount per facility, it was estimated using the property value, and then subsequent years were adjusted for the amount of the increase of the premium, the total premium for that year. So while this was the best method, given the information at the time, MIA now provides a detailed listing of the premium per facility. And we're discovering that there's in some cases, a significant variance between what we've been billing and what the actual premium is for the facility. And in 2025, we can see what that variance was. We can see the curling rink with the largest variance there of 5,459. And as well as the Arts Council with 1,416, and as well, and the Kimberley Gymnastics Club and Nordic Ski Club having a variance as well. So that total $8,963 has been subsidized through the collection of property taxes. So
We provide the facility free of charge with an expectation as part of the agreement that they will pay for the insurance on the facility.
that is right. So in an effort to enhance transparency, we are recommending that the subsidy be acknowledged through a budget allocation, as well as beginning to gradually move towards full cost recovery. So in this table below, I've shown what the estimated billing is for 2026, what the actual premium is anticipated to be, and what that variance is looking like. And so if what I proposed here is that 50% be recovered in 2026, and then by 2027, the full 100% would be recovered, just as a gradual introduction to the full premium applicable to these facilities.
Go ahead, Councillor Fox.
Should have thought it through a little bit. So we're not sort of, so I guess up until recently, we were sort of putting all the facilities in a pot, and we paid, this is the $20,000, whatever the amount is, say $100,000 bill for all the insurance things. And now they can break it down. Is this, and I don't know if this is the right way to ask this, but is this the best way to do it? Or is it better for the curling club to be able to go, or do we have to do it this way?
Well, they're city-owned facilities, so they would
Okay.
have to fall under the city's policy.
Okay.
Councillor McBain.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so the splitting it up 50-50, but that's just to get whole for 1 year. So, correct?
Yeah, this is just to demonstrate what the next year. So this year we would capture the 4,725,
Yep.
and then we would show that the other 4,725 would actually be support to the local organization.
Okay,
But for 2027, the premium will obviously go up. So the full impact of 100%
right.
of that increase would be reflected.
Yeah, okay.
So
That,
not
that-
exactly the 4,000.
yeah, okay, got it. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
So another reduction to the budget that being proposed here is the allocation of the Occupational Health and Safety Advisor. As part of the 2025 operating budget deliberations, council approved the addition of this position. And it was intended to manage the annual core audit, certificate of recognition, and the city's occupational health and safety program, and incident management and return to work plans. But because of the later than expected rollout of the OHS program, as well as the vacancy in the human resources manager position, this recruitment was delayed. So it is now anticipated that this will be filled later in 2026. So we won't need the full year budget. So the 50,291 is reflected as a reduction to the budget. But however, if this is filled in 2027, we'll have to move it up to the full allocation next year for 2027.
Councillor Roberts.
I'm just to clarify, this is a full-time position, is that correct?
That is correct.
Will be full-time position, and that is not to be confused with a human resource manager? Two separate positions?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So this is more for information purposes. As a result of a decision council made as part of the 2025 operating budget deliberations, you can see the resolution passed there that any unbudgeted non-market assessment change, so that's the amount over and above the $100,000 that's already included in the 5-year financial plan. The resolution states that that amount would be transferred into reserves to help infrastructure renewal. So as per the 2026 completed roll, the City of Kimberley is looking at an addition of $49 million related to non-market assessment change. This would represent approximately $291,172 in additional tax revenue. But of course, that $100,000 is already included in the budget. So the unexpected or unanticipated revenue is the $191,172. So that additional revenue will then be transferred to the general capital reserves. So a net impact of 0 on the 2026 budget. So on the next table, it's just summarizing all of those items and showing the tax impact for each. So at the top, we can see that we started out with a 1.46% increase, and each of the line items subsequently reducing it down or increasing for 0.75%, bringing the preliminary tax collection adjustment to 2.21% for 2026. There are still some.
So just to comment on 2.21%, that's unexpectedly low. Any general comments as far as the budgeting process is concerned that has enabled us to get to that point? Because at the end of the day, inflation's 2%, and we also have allocated 1.5% for infrastructure renewal. So I would have expected at least 3.5% at a minimum. And yet there we are at 2.21. So good news, but how come?
So there are a few reasons. In 2025, we had a few budget allocations that were adjusted down. So we had an allocation in 2025 for retirements amounting just below to $40,000. So that's an adjustment that we no longer have for 2026. In the last five-year financial plan, we were also accounting for the community grants policy change that brought the project event grants down from 80,000 down to 30,000. And I understand in the presentation here, we've adjusted again from 30,000 to 60,000 per council's decision in the summer.
So it was a combination of a number of those things.
That's correct.
Yeah, we've captured
Right. So
savings.
if we hadn't have seen those adjustments, it would have been around more around 2.56 as a starting point.
Right.
Plus
Okay.
these,
An extra
yes.
percent or so.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Good job. To the managers, you guys are the ones working through the budgets, and enabled that to become a reality. Thanks for all your hard work on that. It's fantastic. Councillor Roberts.
I have to say, it makes me a little nervous to think that we've been able to do all of these things and that is all the tax the adjustment that were needed. And a part of me saying, are we sure? Are we sure we shouldn't be lifting it a little?
Is that a motion to increase it by 5% or?
Not exactly, no.
Oh, it's great news. Yep. Councillor McBain, go ahead.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments. I think, even in past years, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, usually we still get a couple of tweaks mid-year where, that'll change things a little bit, maybe by a 0.1% or whatever, but just as a general comment, if this is where we're starting, yeah, I think this is pretty awesome. So well done to everybody.
Yeah, no, I'll let Krista speak to the next slide, but yeah, I wouldn't, that's not necessarily going to be the final tax increase. We've got, a bit of time before the bylaws adopted. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, so as to what Jim was alluding to, there are some outstanding items that still need to come through. One is being the revised assessment roll. That's going to likely change between now and March when we receive that. Similarly, with the change of with the revised assessment roll, the non-market change is likely to be modified as well. I've mentioned the RCMP final billing here, but I've since received that information. And as mentioned, we're looking at significant savings for 2025. It is planned to bring the Aquatic Center parcel tax info to our next special budget meeting, which is scheduled for February 17th, 2025. And then at the bottom there is potential for additional requests to come through as new and better information comes into staff, and that may be requiring adjustment as well.
So on the Aquatic Center parcel tax, did we account for the retirement of that debt?
It will be reflected in the 2026 adjustment for the aquatic parcel tax.
Right. So that's additional downward movement
Correct.
on expenditure.
Right.
Awesome.
And I'll bring that detail to that next meeting.
Thank you.
Mm,
The savings just keep rolling.
they do.
This is good.
This next slide just gives a high-level summary of options should council wish to reduce the tax increase further, postponing any of the proposed changes, adjusting service levels, increasing non-tax revenues such as user fees and/or license fees. And then also the last option there is reallocating contributions to reserves, but as noted, by doing that, it limits our ability to renew infrastructure down the road, so less than desirable.
Councillor Fox, then Councillor McBain.
Maybe odd question. So like when we get the thing, like the report thing, and it'll say whatever the cost of the thing is, and it'll say like, it'll be this much of a tax increase. So is there a way for also to get an option where it would be like, we could increase dog licenses by 20% and it would result in a similar amount? Because sometimes we're not talking massive amounts of money, right? So is that an option we could also add in? And sometimes obviously if you look at it and it's like, we would have to raise dog licenses 2,000%. Like, no, that's silly. We're not going to do that, obviously. But is there other options that can be presented besides just the tax increase? Like we license cats and we get this much or whatever it is?
Right, usually that comes with managers when they see an opportunity to increase fees. One example being the recreational rate fees that's currently on staff's plate, but that usually comes through those opportunities and will be brought to council for review and consideration.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of preempt the director requested last slide and referring to these options to reduce tax increase. And touching back to our last, the last slide where it had the summary of where our baseline is today at being 2.2 or whatever it is, 2.21. I will just repeat the same statement. I mean, great job by staff. This is an awesome starting point, and all of the things that you're seeking direction on to me seem very reasonable, and considering where we're starting off, I think these are all pretty much no-brainers.
So let's work our way through. I probably should have done this one up front and didn't, and that is that move receipt of the report. Thank you, Councillor McBain. Councillor Karen seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. The council directs staff to adjust the light industry property tax multiplier by an amount that results in a property tax collection increase of 10%, more than the other property classes. Do we do that one? Okay. I hate things on the fly. Thank you for that. My apologies. Next up then is that council approve for inclusion in the 26 to 35-year financial plan bylaw, the proposed adjustments to the general operating base budget as described in the staff report. Councillor McBain moves, Councillor Karen seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The council authorize a transfer from the RCMP contract reserve equal to the amount of additional expenditure required to cover the additional contract expense as proposed in the staff report. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor McBain seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. That council directs staff to establish a new election reserve to fund future general elections with annual contributions beginning in 2027. Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor McBain seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And finally, that council directs staff to amend the property insurance premium cost recovery billings to local organizations, with 50% of the additional variance billed in 2026 and the remainder in 2027. Councillor Cairns moves and Councillor Roberts seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Anything else?
No, I'll just bring up what the next proposed steps are, which is our next special budget meeting scheduled for February 17th to review any outstanding items in preparation for the next 5-year financial plan deliberations. And then it is expected that by April 13th, we can have all the bylaws for council's first 3 readings and adoption by April 27th, allowing for preparation and mailing of property tax notices mid-May.
So the outstanding items, those are yet to come,
Correct.
basically as you're finalizing, finalizing
That's
things. Okay. Final comments or questions, council? Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
Great job. Yeah. Yeah, nice piece of work, most definitely.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. I need a mover to move into close. Councillor McBain moves. Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, staff, for being here tonight. Yeah, well, thank you for being here on the budget side.
I think John's probably in the building on his phone check.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.